Welcome. This is the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinscoe, and I'm an advisor, best-selling author, Forbes contributor, and general explorer of the service and experience space. The thing I'm really interested in is how do we create organizations that produce better outcomes for both their customers and their people. This podcast has been running since January 2011, and so we have a big archive to explore. Check out the archive at adrianswinscoe.com. That's enough from me. Let's get into the interview. So welcome to the next edition of the Punk CX podcast. With me today, I have Brian Toot, who is the CEO and co-founder of Zenerate. Hey, Brian, how you doing?
Terrific, Adrian. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome, Brian. Now, Brian, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you, a bit about what kind of like the work that you do, a bit of a thumbnail sketch, that sort of thing.
Terrific. So, Brian Toot, I'm the founder and CEO of Zenerate. Zenerate is helping power human connections through simulation training. There's a lot of software companies out there that are in some ways replacing the human being, and we just we're the polar opposite. So we're 100% focused on making the human being great, and in our case, preparing agents. So in a sales use case, in a service use case, preparing agents to engage amazing with their customers and prospects. So we have most of the top banks like Bank of America, American Express, HSBC around the world, to top healthcare companies like an Optum or Elevance Health, to leading brands in telecom and travel and technology like a Verizon, to a United Airlines, to Nintendo. So, and I share that with you just that our AI coach is really topic agnostic at its most basic level. It's just preparing a human being to engage amazing with another human being.
Awesome. I mean, and one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, one of the reasons actually I wanted to have you on the podcast is because, we know that agent turnover and attrition is a perennial problem in that service support contact center sort of space. But it's almost like with the rise in demand over the last couple of years, the rise in switch to digital, and there's this kind of almost like sustained kind of rise in demand, and people working remotely, and there's been a lot of burnout and isolation around agents and things that sort of the attrition it seems to be exacerbated when you're brought on as a new agent. And what I wanted to do, and I think a lot of this is about how well prepared they are to deal with the different queries they have to face and the pressure they have to balance, that pressure to perform as well. And so I wanted to better understand the Zenerate sort of solution and what you do to try and alleviate that problem. So, I mean,
sure,
help me understand how that works. Like, if I'm a new agent, you're like going, what happens?
I love it. Yeah. Most customer-facing leaders today are experiencing automation, leaving agents with the toughest problems to solve, just as you described. So, I mean, years ago when I ran contact centers, pre-digital self-serve, you had a lot of basic inquiries coming in, what's my payment due date or what have you. And today those inquiries are gone. And when a human being or a customer needs to pick up the phone, they typically have a pretty challenging problem that they need somebody to help them with. And what Zenerate does is we prepare agents to help solve those challenging customer or prospect problems through what we call an AI coach. And probably the best way that our customers think about our AI coach is just using an analogy. Think of it like the flight simulator for customer and prospect engagement, where agents in training are immersed in real life call simulation to master all the topics that they'll face with live customers. So let's say, Adrian, you and I are learning we're pilots in training, and we're just super excited to learn how to fly a plane. we're still going to be in a classroom, taking tests and quizzes and going through PowerPoints and watching videos on how to fly a plane and all that. But we're not going to go from passing a test or a quiz and jumping into the cockpit of a live plane for the first time. That'd be pretty scary. We're going to go into that flight simulator, and it's going to simulate reality. And we're going to really master how to fly in all the scenarios that we'll face in a live plane, flying in the rain and the wind and the snow, and really master the skills necessary to be successful flying in that plane for the first time. I use the pilot analogy, but just think of anything in your own life. Maybe you're learning how to play a sport or a musical instrument, or learning how to cook. We're all as human beings really mastering our skills for that experiential, hands-on learning before we go on our own big stage. And AI's finally allowed the agent to benefit from that.
And does that mean that you can, but you also can, to the different scenarios, different types of queries, different, if you like, levels of anxiety and emotion and all these different sort of things, because sometimes those are the kind of the different sliders that you can change to kind of to help people and push into the corners, as it were, because most training tends to static training is like, here's the majority of the things that you kind of achieve, but it's usually the stuff on the ends that catches you out, right?
Absolutely. And so imagine you and I are new hire agents at any company, and we'll go through 3 or 5 weeks of new hire training. I'll just say 3 as an example. So prior to Zenrate, it'll be the tests and quizzes and PowerPoints, what have you. And what our customers do is insert their AI coach into that 3 weeks. So now, just like the flight simulator, but now it's conversation and screen simulation and chat. But now you're getting the benefit of that hands-on simulation learning before you move to live customers or prospects. So you and I are new agents in training, and we could be working from home or office. And our trainer assigns us a story with a click of a button. We get that story, we access it through our Chrome or Edge browser. We hit the play button, and now we're role playing with our AI coach. And just like any good role play, the AI coach is doing 2 things. One is it's simulating a customer or prospect on any challenging topic or call type. But 2, as it's role playing with us, it's also listening what we're saying. And if we're not using best practices like empathy or how to best overcome objections or soft skills or driving to digital, whatever, or required practices like compliance, just like if you and I are role playing, you're going to stop me and say, hey, Brian, in this situation, here's a great way to handle this. Or your AI coach will interrupt you and provides that feedback and ask you to try again. So with the AI coach, we can simulate any persona, challenging scenarios, simple scenarios, to your point, corner cases, just like you and I role playing. We could role play on any call type, any topic, any particular skill, and we can simulate that to create an automated role play. One other point on that is, as we're role playing, again, just like if you and I were as human beings, we're with our AI coach, we're using our own natural language. So none of our customers use scripting. There's no scripting anywhere in the platform except for some compliance use cases. So we're really getting good at those best and required practices in our own DNA to prepare us to deliver amazing experiences, to those personalized, elegant experiences to inspire customers and really embolden the brand impact.
Well, I mean, it also allows people to kind of be themselves.
Absolutely.
But it's like what you're doing is like you're trying to like bring the best out of yourself, but then kind of give them a bit of guidelines and a bit of kind of like a bit of training on the go. But how does that work from a management perspective? Because I mean, imagine it's like you don't go new agent into that cupboard over there and don't come out until you've finished all these kind of simulations. So
right.
How does it work from a management perspective? Because actually there's a simulation and then there's real life. And I guess management's going to want to know how people have kind of performed. Because I think that there's probably applications for like an ongoing stuff or retraining, sort of a re-practicing stuff. Is that right?
Absolutely. So we have 2 primary sponsors. The first is the training leader, and how a training leader uses their AI coach is to insert that experiential immersive learning in that training curriculum, to really develop what they'll think of as confident, prepared agents, removing their anxiety, really preparing them for those high impact call types and getting those skills, those best required practices and empathy, soft skills, all that good stuff, really getting them confident, proficient. So that's the one use case for the training leader. The second way a training leader thinks about their AI coach is to certify those new hire agents to engage with live customers or prospects through what we call the simulation scorecard. So just like you and I are in the flight simulator, flying in the rain and the wind and the snow, that scorecard is going to say, gosh, Adrian's ready to go fly that live plane. He's going to do an amazing job. Brian, don't put him in the live plane. He's not ready. He needs more time, or maybe he's not even a fit for this role, and he's just kind of not going to get there to be ready to really wow our customers or prospects. And so that's how a trainer thinks about their AI coach, both from developing those confident, prepared agents and then auto certifying them to engage and deliver great customer and prospect experiences to their simulation scorecard. The second primary sponsor or stakeholder is the contact center leader or the customer facing leader in a sales use case, or maybe a face-to-face in a store or a banking center, what have you. But really that customer facing leader, and the way they look at their AI coach is, imagine you're the leader and you get a group of new hire agents, and you get a group of agents coming to you that got the benefit of simulation before flying the plane, or coming to you to engage with your customers, versus a group of agents who didn't. And just right away in the first 30 days, you will see an immediate difference. And most of our customers do some pretty sophisticated champion challengers. And the folks or the agents who got the benefit of simulation training versus those who didn't see 30, 40, 50% improvement in those key KPIs like customer sat scores to conversion rates, first call resolution, driving to digital, whatever those key metrics are that were really the primary focus of the simulation before they engage with those live customers and prospects. And then the second use case for the customer contact leader is not just new hires coming to them, but the tenured agents to upskill those tenured agents or close those skill gaps. So maybe you're the contact center leader and you know that I'm struggling with empathy. You could, or maybe in a common objection, you can assign me those stories. I come out of the live calls, I interact with my AI coach on those particular call types or skill gaps that I have. I return to live calls confident and proficient where I previously struggled.
Okay. And does it also do any sort of like real-time kind of analysis on the kind of performance, and then kind of tells them where the training kind of gaps might kind of be on once people are in that live arena? Or is that left to kind of other kind of like systems?
Yeah. So that's, there's our contact center leaders have different methods of understanding where those skill gaps are. Right. So coming back to flying the plane, there's analysis out there to say, gosh, you're really good in the rain and the wind, but not so good in the snow. You land that plane, then you come out, and whatever those mechanisms are, it could be call listening, it could be call analysis. However they identify what my particular skill gap is, that's where Zenerate comes in after that. So I land that plane. Okay. I come out of off of the engagement with live customers or prospects. I go through simulation to really close that gap, return to those calls confident, proficient. So our customers use a process to constantly be closing those gaps, and also to roll out back and forth and just getting better. You're already really good, using my analogy, at flying the plane through the simulation, but you could always get better. And then also for new products or new methods or new experiences that you want to deliver to your customers or prospects, you can build those experiences through your call simulation, through your AI coach, and have those agents become really confident and proficient, mastering kind of the way that experience that you want them to deliver to your customers.
Yeah, no, I can see how it would be really kind of useful, but not just for new agents, but like as you kind of like said then about when you're introducing like new features and new products, new services and stuff, and you want to almost like inject that into it, but also make it feel natural. It's like, rather than going blah 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 blah. Oh, by the way, there's a thing. Do you want to buy it? Kind of like, it's like. Actually, maybe there's a better way to introduce it into the conversation and getting people comfortable with that, rather than presenting people with the opportunity, the almost just the directive, like you must start talking about this, and then initially it gets very clumsy and people have to figure it out themselves. But having a space to try and work through kind of like, oh, how do I comfortably and naturally include this within the conversation?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really where, the advent of AI comes in. We couldn't have done this 10 years ago because the technology just wasn't there. But now we can, and it's all natural language. So our customers, whether it's the training leaders or contact center leaders, of course, they measure champion challengers, so KPIs, but they also want a great user experience. And we just, because of today's technology and allowing these agents to really master those best and required practices in their own DNA that they feel comfortable with, that they can really connect with a customer. That's the difference between trying to do simulation training 10 years ago. Or the surveys and focus groups, we get just super high user experience scores, and the comment verbatims are, geez, my AI coach is really improving my confidence. Another comment verbatim is it's removed my anxiety. And then we also hear a lot how they refer to it as their personal unbiased AI coach. So it's just you and your AI coach. You're working from home. I'm working from wherever on the planet, and I'm have my headset on, and nobody's watching, and I'm messing it up, and I'm getting better and better and better. And let's say by the fourth or fifth practice on this challenging call scenario, I listen back and I'm like, gosh, I really nailed it. I sound amazing. I got all the best required practices and empathy and soft skills and all that good stuff. I'm really excited to share this one. With the click of a button, I can share it with my trainer or manager anywhere on the planet that my user ID is configured for, and they can listen to it and provide me human feedback as well. But the key is that the technology that's just all natural language, just like you and I role playing. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. And this is it just voice, or is it voice and also kind of written sort of text as well?
Yeah. Absolutely. So simulation is all voice, screen, and written. So voice, we refer to that as conversation simulation. That's you and I role playing just through voice and screen. So imagine you and I are role playing, and you're sitting right next to me, and you're role playing on a topic, but you also want me to learn how to navigate through a screen. You'd be using your finger and pointing and say, okay, go to the screen and click here. So we have screen simulation where your AI coach will simulate a customer and help you navigate through the screens. And then also in text, and chat is the most common. And
right.
The chat experience is the exact same as the voice, but instead of talking, you're typing. But as you're typing, you still have to use soft skills and best practices and compliance and all that good stuff. The only difference with chat is we have a feature where you can insert multiple chats. So in voice, when you're talking to a customer, it's just a one-to-one. You're only talking to one customer at a time. But in chat, you could be chatting with, having a conversation with 2, 3, 4 customers. So as a trainer, you can specify, okay, throw in the second chat at 15 seconds and throw in the third chat at 20 seconds. So now it's just a super hard job. Now, as an agent, you're chatting with 3 different customers and going back and forth, and our analytics will provide that scorecard that'll also say, gosh, how good was the agent, not just at the best and required practices, but also at the response time. Agent was able to not leave chat 1 and 2 kind of hanging, but Brian never got back to it took him 2 minutes to get back to the first one. Gosh, he can't multitask quite as well.
Yeah, sure. No, that's kind of interesting because it's that kind of full simulation, but it's like taking it and going, this is what it's like in the real world.
Exactly.
And it's like, and you've got to build up those kind of like familiarity muscles, I guess.
Yeah, and that's a big part of our product vision. The North Star is to simulate reality as close as possible. And it's kind of a fun way to think about it, because when you really start thinking about that, there's lots that you can do to simulate reality. Our main focus is on where it's really going to help that agent be prepared and confident and do a terrific job. So that's where we started with conversation, expanded to screen and chat. We have lots of other ideas on our roadmap.
Awesome. So, Brian, maybe just to bring it to kind of life, and do you have a couple of examples of like brands that you obviously brands that you can share that are using your technology, and where specifically are they using it, and what were the problems they were facing, where are they specifically applying it, and what sort of benefits have they been able to accrue as through their use of it?
Sure. I'll just use Bank of America as an example. So they implemented AI Coach vertically across all the functions. So every every customer-facing associate at the bank will master the bank way through their AI coach. So if you and I were going to join in service or collections or fraud or the banking centers or the wealth management, we're training and mastering those best and required practices and all those simulated scenarios that we'll face with our live customers and prospects. So you think about that as implementing it vertically, but then they also went horizontally across the company and said anywhere where we have human to human role play, they hot swapped it with their AI coach. So using AI coach to help leaders really master deep dive interviewing skills. There's a few things more important than making sure you hire the right people. Or managers really master how to deliver that motivational, constructive feedback that as human beings, that's kind of a hard thing to do. And that's a skill that we have to learn. And how are you going to have an agent? Gosh, I know that I got to deliver this feedback. And how am I going to have Brian receive this feedback and come out of it where he really appreciates his strengths and opportunities and he's motivated to close those opportunity gaps. And there's a skill in how to do that. So just a couple of other examples of how AI coach is being used.
Nice. I mean, I love that. I mean, I love the idea that it's like, because difficult conversations don't just happen with customers.
Correct.
Right. And I think that sometimes, here's the thing, there's a bit of a, I don't know if it's an organizational myth or not, but people kind of talk about people join a company, but leave a boss. And sometimes, anything we can do to help kind of improve the quality of kind of management. Because I actually remember there's an old piece of research that comes from Gallup. And they talked about, and I've probably mentioned it tons of times on this podcast. And they looked at the difference between top quartile performing organizations and bottom quartile performing organizations. And they found through the research that 70% of the variance between those two groups of organizations could be explained by the quality of an organization's management. And I just think it's crazy. I mean, so it sort of adds weight to the idea that you join a company and leave a boss, right?
Sorry.
I mean, and so I just think having a simulated environment that can lend itself to having those conversations and being able to get the best out of people. Because let's face it, over the last couple of years, the nature of supervision, team leadership, management, kind of whatever it might be, it's changed. It went from being pretty much exclusively on site in the office, face to face, and then it sort of went remote, and now it's gone back into either some sort of hybrid type thing, and actually that requires different skills, and to get the most out of people, because you're not necessarily seeing people all of the time. So I just think it's a really interesting sort of application that they're going to allow leaders to sort of really role play things and get better themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you kind of think about, to your point, if you have recruiters who are masters in interviewing, so now you're already by definition bringing the best people into your company, and then you enable your leaders to provide motivational, that constructive motivational feedback that's going to help your workforce grow and perform. You're really getting at the root of that Gallup poll to develop an organization and a workforce that you have the right people, and then you have the right talent that's constantly getting better by helping people just get better at what they do every day.
Sure. Excellent. I love it. So Brian, that's all very cool and super interesting. Is there anything that you'd like to add or highlight that we've missed out before I ask you to zoom out a little bit and give us your perspective on kind of the broader landscape?
Sure. Yeah. We've been successful like anybody through hard work and luck. There's definitely a lot of luck involved. And On the Lux side, we're fortunate. This is, of course, not by design, but especially dealing with larger brands, that we don't have any personal or account information with our products. So when you're in the simulation, interacting or role playing with your AI coach, it's all made up, fictitious data. AI coach says what's your account number. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. So not having that personal account information, and then there's no IT integration. So we're not dealing with a live environment. Literally just the only IT requirements are a Chrome or an Edge browser and a headset, and any headset will do. And I can assign you a story, and you access your AI coach platform, and you're off and running, role playing and getting better at those call types and skills. So it's made life a lot easier for us. We're typically rated at the lowest level, not having live data or any kind of IT integration, and that's really helped us accelerate that speed of value for our customers. Yeah.
Nice. I mean, because it would probably also kind of like, it should hopefully accelerate the sales cycle as well, and all the kind of the hoops you might have to jump through around kind of like risk and security and compliance and all those different sort of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to check those boxes, but we typically get through those quicker than most for those reasons. And we think about it as it just accelerates our ability to have an impact and empower those human connections. Our AI coach is used all over the world every day and 15 languages. And the more people we can reach and the more people we can help be confident and remove that anxiety and be successful and stay around longer and feel good about themselves, that's how we think about our impact and expanding that impact.
And typically, do you have a feel for when the AI coach is introduced into an organization? Do you have a feel for the impact it has on attrition rates and sort of like agent retention rates?
Yeah, for sure. So our customers, especially our larger brands, do lots of analysis, and they're finding that it's helping actually recruit people. So either further upstream, and you're going to get AI and simulation based training versus kind of traditional. So that it's a little bit of an attraction. And then through the training process, as the agents are interacting, they're getting more confident. So there's some benefit in that, even as early as that during the training attrition. And then
does that mean you're shortening the time to performance, as it were?
Yeah, shortening. Yeah, that is definitely one of the key metrics. Is we think of it as accelerating that speed of proficiency. So you and I are going through the 3 weeks, and you get the benefit of simulation, and I don't. And we say, okay, hey, let's look at Adrian's performance 30 days later versus Brian's, and you'll see in a cohort, you'll see a material difference in your performance versus mine on those KPIs. So getting to that. Prior to our AI coach, I would say on average, it takes 7, 8, 9 months for agents to get to that network average performance.
Right.
We're cutting that time. Most of our customers are cutting that time on average 56%. So more than half on that agent speed of proficiency.
Wow.
And then that has a collateral impact back to your question on attrition or retention, because as people are feeling better about what they do, they're feeling more confident, they're more successful, maybe they're making better money on incentive. Of course, you're going to see them stay more so than without that.
Yeah, no, because I think the first year is crucial. With most people will come in and go, or it's often a bit like of a sink or swim, because I think attrition is highest in the first year. But if you get through the first year reasonably successful, you're more likely to stick around for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's just so much cost in that early in investing, right? In the recruiting and bringing them through training. And then they leave in the first 6 months. That's just such a sunk cost, because you really didn't even get them productive until 7, 8, 9 months. Well, now you're getting folks productive much earlier, and then they're staying longer. So it has a significant impact on your return on that investment and your recruiting and your training, much less your KPIs, that they're going to perform better and deliver better experiences for your customers.
Awesome. That's great. That's really positive. So switching gears a little bit, I mean, I've been asking people, well, ever since the world got weird, and it got weird in the early part of 2020. I mean, with the pandemic, and we had a couple of years of that, and then 2022 was when we thought it was safe to go back into the world kind of went weird again, and there were supply chain shocks and conflict and inflation and all these different sort of things. And so it's been a challenging 2-3 years. And what I've been asking people to do I've been asking people, it's like going, what's sort of the biggest lesson that you've learned over the last couple of years that is really going to inform what you do going forward?
Yeah, that's great. When I think about early 20 and really one way I think about that is the COVID inspired work from home, remote work environment. So when I look across our customer base today, there's a small percentage where everybody's back in the office, and there's a small percentage where everybody's still, everybody's remote. And I'd say the vast majority are hybrid somewhere in there. And when you think about the agent, that makes it really challenging on the agent. It's great that you can live anywhere, but to be successful in your role and learn those skills, it's much more challenging because now you're on your own, you're isolated, you don't have the ability to do side by sides and talk with your peers and have those manager interactions near as much as you do in person. So we're grateful to be able to help those agents and provide them that interaction and that kind of their personal AI coach that's going to help them improve their confidence and remove that anxiety and help them be successful wherever they want to live and be successful in their role. So I think about it that way. And then also kind of on a meta level, to be prepared for anything. So when COVID hit, we had a lot of our clients come to us and say, geez, we got our agents are getting just hit with all these questions about COVID. We don't even know what it is. And so we all kind of sat down and we didn't know either, right? We did the best we could, work with our clients to say, okay, here's a way to handle, to make customers feel comfortable in these different scenarios. So we built stories to help agents really handle, gosh, when the customer is mentioning COVID and the problems that they're having, to be able to respond to it in an empathetic way that's logical with the information that we had at the time. So at least they were armed and not kind of trying to figure out that on their own. And, whether it's COVID or, like you said, a new product launch or a new service or whatever it is, to be prepared for a changing environment and to be able to take your workforce and quickly adapt them to those changes.
Awesome. Nice. And so in your another question I wanted to ask, and it's like, because we wander about a little bit on these kind of podcasts and we talk about a bunch of different things, and sometimes that's nice, but oftentimes people can listen to podcasts because they want clear, actionable insight. Tell me what to do in this situation. So Here's a question for you, Brian. What would be your best advice to someone listening in that wants to improve their customer and or employee experience? And it would be complete the sentence. Brian says, do this one thing. And that one thing is ...
I would say invest in your people. And so when you think about the agent, it's likely that the agent is your only human connection with your customer or prospect. And that's a pretty powerful thing to think about. And if you invest in your agent, and regardless if it's simulation training or gamification or maybe the work environment, whatever it is, investing in that human being, I just don't think you can go wrong helping that agent feel confident and prepared and motivated and excited to have that human connection with your customers. Because at the end of the day, there's lots of AI and digital, but we're all human beings. And as your agents being that only human connection with your customers and prospects, I feel you can't go wrong investing in your agents and your people, employees, of course, as well. Yeah.
Brilliant. So a couple of things I ask people just at the end of these kind of conversations, and I call it quite fancily my longitudinal social research. Well, I do that from time to time because it makes it sound fancy, but actually it really is me doing some word association over a long period of time. And so the questions I generally ask it's all related to the Punk CX and Punk XL books I've written. The first question I ask is, what one or two words would you use to describe a more punk approach to customer experience?
Yeah, I would say, more and more. So the one or two words I would say, human connection, right? And I think that's when I think about that punk experience. I'm not an expert in music, but connecting with your audience, you always hear that's the most important thing, right? And being genuine and have that connection with your audience. There's so much data and analytics and digital, and everybody's trying to do things more efficient and simpler, which is all great. But if you do that despite, if you do that with the power of the and, with the human connection, but if you do that and lose focus and it becomes an or, and you sacrifice that human connection, I think that's a net negative. And just always prioritizing that you really want to, take care of your customers, take care of your prospects, invest in those agents, invest in those employees. And I think the sky's the limit.
Perfect. And I've just checked my list. And while we've got human focused and humanity, we haven't got human connection. So I'm going to squeeze that one in there. So Brian, you're on the list.
All right. Love it.
So the next question is, so the follow-on book to Punk CX was this thing called Punk XL. And the XL stands for experienced leadership. And it's based on this idea that it's, I don't think it's sufficient any longer to talk about customer experience in isolation. And we have to talk about more of an integrated, systemic, holistic sort of approach to things. And also that we talk about, brand leadership and market leadership and technological leadership and all that type of stuff. But we don't talk about experience leadership. And so that the book was to try and explore that and its different sort of dimensions and trying to almost to start that conversation. But what I've been doing is asking people, it's like, what company or brand do you think is an experience leader and why? Like who's setting the bar? Who do you look to and go, I think they're kind of like, they're one to watch.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think about our customer base. Give you the short answer, I'd say Elevance Health. Very focused.
Elevance Health?
Yeah, formerly Anthem. So they've rebranded from Anthem to Elevance Health. Just super focused on providing a highly empathetic, caring, personalized, warm, and welcoming customer experience.
Okay.
And we have, coming back to your question about, the last couple of years in COVID, I have seen a difference post-COVID of kind of a wave across companies really focusing more on soft skills and empathy. So, the content that we build into our AI coach from different companies, as I look at that, I do see that as a material difference in a key theme across companies. But of course, there's some that emphasize that more than others, and I would put them at the top. Yeah.
It's something that I've been banging on about for a long time. And I typically, when people kind of there's an outcry from customers by, we need more of this, as it were. And around the time of 2020 or the back end of 2020, I mean, you'll remember there was people, the outcry was, we want more empathy. We want to see more empathy.
Right.
And a lot of time people react to that and they'll go, we need more empathy training. And I said to them, well, actually, I think it's harder than that, because it can't be like a one and done type thing. You have to think about it in a more connected way. And I was starting to think about this idea about, if companies really wanted to deliver that, then they have to think about creating what I call an empathetic musculature. And it's like that whole thing around, the strategy, the people, the process, the technology, and the systems and things that go to support that. It can't just be like, I'm going to put a sticky plaster on it and we're good. It's you have to think about it like, you can add the training, but then how do you sustain it, and how do you embed it, and how do you nurture it, and how do you develop it, and all these different sort of things. And I think that what you're doing, particularly in that sort of realm, is, I mean, it feels like it very much fits into that sort of framework, and in a really, really positive way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, just it's hard to learn new skills, especially complex new skills, because what you're talking about is really changing human behavior, right? So maybe I could learn math, or I could learn grammar, maybe from, reviewing content, tests and quizzes and what have you. But to change that behavior, that takes a different level. Like you're saying, it's a holistic approach. And the feedback we get from our customers is that experience of, that hands-on learning, that experiential learning of flying that plane in the simulator is probably the most powerful way to actually affect human behavior. And you can do it, right? And so the other thing that we find, especially just getting back to agent. So that new hire agent, they're engaging with live customers. There's just a natural human tendency just to want to answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, how come you couldn't make this payment? Well, I was in the hospital. Okay, well, here's what we could do about it. As opposed to, well, geez, get in the habit. Oh my gosh, you were in the hospital. I'm so sorry to hear that. Adrian, how are you feeling now? Oh, I'm feeling much better. Okay, great. Oh, by the way, so here's how we can, and just getting practice at that and reps, and you can get that. As I was saying, you can all of a sudden incorporate this improved behavior into your own DNA, and not just improve that for your customers, but also for your agents and for themselves, and how they conduct themselves in their personal and professional lives to learn those behaviors. That would be hard to do that through kind of traditional learning. And we see that every day, and we hear that feedback every day, how people are so grateful that they've had the opportunity to improve not just what they do, but also how they interact with other people.
Awesome. So Brian, one final thing, because I'm always looking for good news stories, because I find myself waking up every morning over a cup of coffee, I'm doom scrolling, and very quickly past all this, I'm looking for sort of like rays of sunshine in the daily news. And to combat that, I've been asking some of the people I've been speaking to recently on the podcast to share with me some of the most interesting or positive or exciting thing that you've seen in the last week. So give me a good news story, Brian.
Just the last week or a couple of weeks, right? We're hearing a lot about ChatGPT and the advance in conversational AI. And I just think it's so exciting. And, it's so exciting to see so many AI use cases helping human beings. And, I know there's the fear that comes along with that it's taken over the world. But if you really, you look at companies like ChatGPT and what we're doing and lots of other companies, if you carefully study what AI is doing today, I think you'll find that it's incredible the impact that it's having on our lives every day. And so I would just to simplify that answer, I'd say, kind of the visibility that conversational AI is getting through the ChatGPT just over the last few weeks is on a whole nother level. Don't be afraid of it. Look at it. And I think you're going to be pleased to find that it's actually going to help you and other people every day in our daily lives.
Well, yeah, definitely a lot of excitement out there about it. So anyway, but thank you for sharing that for me. So Brian, that's all I have and for today. And so what I wanted to do was just to say thank you for sharing your time and your insight and your expertise with me, and congratulations on the success with Generate's AI Coach and helping make the lives of new agents and existing agents kind of better, and sort of reducing that sort of making them feel more comfortable and being able to perform better, but also kind of to reduce attrition and kind of maintain well-being levels and all that good stuff. So I think it's great. So thank you, Brian. That's been awesome.
Adrian, thank you. I've really enjoyed our conversation. Grateful to get to know you, and look forward to our next talk.
Awesome. Wow, what a great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Find out more about me and the work that I do at adrianswinscoe.com. Do leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have any comments, feedback, or questions about the podcast, then feel free to send me a message to podcast@adrianswinscoe.com. Do tune in again. Thanks very much.